Hey Green Tippers, nice to have you with us. Today we're going to look at a garden tour of Hever Castle Garden, which is based in Kent. It's a historic house dating back to the 13th century and was Anne Boleyn's house, the second wife of Henry VIII. But the gardens themselves were laid out in the early 1900s, 1904 to 1908. Mrs. G is with us today and is going to be commenting on what she thought as well of our trip to Hever Castle Garden. We went in June. We thoroughly enjoyed our day. There's plenty to do for more than one day, to be honest. There was so much on site. So this is not just a one season or one plant event kind of garden. We entered in via, I think it was a temporary entrance, but we walked down to the lake. And the lake is huge. There's a lakeside restaurant. There's also the ability to hire out pedalos and rowboats by the hour. Then there's lots of wildlife around there. I think they talked about kingfishers, didn't they?
Yeah, and otters as well. We didn't get to see one, but apparently they nest along the edge of the lake.
We entered the garden through the pergola walk, but it had wisteria there, which I'm sure in its relevant season would look lovely. And then on the other side of the wall, which we hadn't got to at this point, was the rose garden, but it was spectacular.
Yeah, many different colours and aromas. It was really beautiful. I really enjoyed the rose garden.
It was definitely a wow moment as you come round the corner into that walled area. Rambling roses growing over columns, which was beautiful effect as well. They're really well kept. Some of my favourites, one of the ones, Nostalgia, which is a beautiful one, which is red edged with the white rose.
Yeah, and it was nice because we were really in seasons. The roses were just full of blooms, riot of colour. Lovely.
The clematis, again, which were paired with some of the roses, which was to beautiful effect. There was a herbaceous border, which was packed full of stuff. And then we got to spend a little bit of time walking along the shaded area where there were...
Yeah, it was it felt woodland-like, but also like ferns and...
Hostas.
Yeah. And I've never seen a hosta flower as well before. I didn't even realise that they flowered, but there were some really tall flower stems. The hostas were really healthy.
I think this area here was also where the rhododendron walk was. And then you have the stairs leading back down to the Hever Castle. Again, another lovely photo opportunity. So there was just lots of space for quiet walking, enjoying the scenery.
Yeah, and it's a really good place to take in a family. There were relaxing areas where you could sit on the grass, picnic tables. They really were encouraging you to stay there the whole day and just relax and enjoy your visit.
What I liked about the garden as well is the maturity of the planting. So, for example, the trees here, they were massive. They had massive branches. In fact, I sat in some of them, big kid, but also to enjoy as a shade of them. It was just nice to see such maturity. And in fact, there was some good play areas for the children as well.
Yeah, fun place for the children.
And water features quite heavily in this garden as well. There's moats and rivers and the lake that we've already mentioned. Quite a few fountains as well. Water features, plenty of stuff to see in the garden. So you have the Astor Wing at the back, which is a luxury hotel and bed and breakfast.
Yeah, and you can also do weddings and things there as well, they promote.
Yeah, so we've just got the topiary here. It just looked beautiful. It just looked like it had always been there. It just looks like a chocolate box model house and castle. It just is a bit fairy tale, really.
Yeah, and the fish in the moat were like amazing. They were huge and they were all coming up and they were koi, weren't they? They were in the
swimming around. Actually, they were quite huge, weren't they? They jumped out at a couple of points to catch insects flying low over the water. So there's the aster wing at the back, the moat with the lilies. Again, loads of lilies featured, and they're all in flower.
The lilies were very beautiful.
Lots of dragonflies. So this was the Tudor garden, which has golden yew. And in this section, we're the chess garden with the astrolabe, and the chess pieces were really interesting, nicely clipped. In that section, there was also a herb garden, and they were categorized according to different uses.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, like digestive, or I can't remember some of the other ones. They would have used in the kitchen.
Is it not culinary?
Did they have an area that was for dyeing as well, I think?
Oh, okay. Dyeing materials. Yeah. But what was quite nice about the castle was that it's large grounds, and I think there's more than enough for a day. And, if you bring food for a picnic as well. But there's also quite a lot of intimate spaces which you could kind of lose yourself in. Around the Tudor garden, there were a few benches under some pergolas where the roses were growing, some little niches where you could just, maybe if you'd brought your sandwiches or a flask or whatever, you could just sit with a book and just read if you wanted.
I think a couple of times when we'd come around a little corner and there'd be some, a family or some people sitting on a bench just enjoying the view.
So we then went on to the Italian garden.
Yeah, but before we got to the Italian garden, there was also the maze, but that was closed. We couldn't go in it because of the COVID, but because that was by the herb garden.
So we then went on to the Italian garden, which is walled and has beautiful straight lines and long views and brickwork, or stonework actually, urns and alcoves. And then you had the views out from the Italian garden into the lake, but there was the loggia at the lake end of the garden, and just a fantastic opportunity for photo shoots and just to have some quiet contemplation. On the other side of this shot here, between the section that you can see and the lake, there were steps, and there was a fountain as well where you could in the loggia you could actually sit and eat as well if you wanted. There were a couple of people in there reading, just to enjoy the view out over the lakes.
Yeah, and there were a few bits that we didn't get to see. There's like the walk on the other side of the lake, around the lake, which we didn't get a chance to look at. We didn't.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. If you go on the website and you get the interactive map, in fact, because of time, we didn't do it, and a little bit because we'd also walked enough. But you've also got a water maze, which would be great for adults and kids, or kids and big kids. And you've also got the Millennium Fountain, and then you've also got the Japanese tea house. So you can actually walk all the way, well, I think you can walk all the way around the lake. So definitely room to explore some more. And if the garden is busy, there's lots of areas where you can get away from the crowds as well, to enjoy a quiet moment, take in the wildlife and enjoy the scenery. But as we mentioned, there are also the shaded grottos. Again, well planted, damp, with lots of ferns, mosses, hostas. But one thing that I noticed were there were a few little areas that you could easily miss. So, for example, around the back of the Italian garden was the area which I believe is called Diana's Walk and Faith's Garden, which again was recently planted up with herbaceous perennials. It was really beautiful.
And the silver birch trees, the bark was good contrast against the flowers around the base, the achilles and other flowers.
So overall, Hever Castle, a great day out. lots to see and do. Nice large areas for kids to play and burn off some energy, and play in the play area as well. Enjoy the mazes. There was a gift shop. There was.
We went to the cafe. We got coffee from the cafe.
There was a small plant shop, or there was some plant sales outside of the gift shop. So yeah, we enjoyed it. Out of 10, what do you reckon?
9 out of 10?
Yeah, I agree. I think 9 out of 10. I'm not quite sure what would be 10 out of 10, but this was definitely a 9. This was really good. We enjoyed it very much, and yeah. So thanks for listening to Greentipsgarden. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe as well to my channel. And if you'd like to be notified of upcoming videos when they're posted, don't forget to click the bell button as well. Thanks for listening to Greentipsgarden.